Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a four-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Jana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back, religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something.
Wait, Timothy, you there?
Of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period, period, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad border, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
The 4-star general standing to your side was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its 3rd year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden.
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is the guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size
Come on,
economically.
man. The question is about the
Their economy
Palestinian
is about the
state,
same
man.
size as the United States. And they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever.
What the hell is this guy talking about?
She admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
Trump is roasting himself,
after
man.
a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won.
This guy that sat up here and lied.
Terrible judge.
Oh my
God.
Horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all
He was told not
high-ranking
to do
Democrats,
this.
appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? And this is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
All right, man. Let's mute this thing up for the actual commercials, because I don't care to hear about. This is courtesy of NBC, so we are watching it from.
I was gonna say you could have left it on. You just could have muted.
No. I was trying to mute it. There we go. Man, look, Biden doesn't seem to be all that high energy, but the stuff that's coming out of Trump's mouth, rah. What is going on with this dude? He was specifically coached not to say anything that he said now. He was specifically coached not to do that.
And he sat there on the stage and lied. Dude, you don't have to sit here and lie. You've already been prosecuted in the court of law. So he's talking directly to his base, but those who are outside of his direct base are gonna look at this guy and say, what's he lying for? And he was terrible. I mean, terrible on the January 6th question. He took off and went to Mars somewhere. I don't know where this guy went. I'm just like, wow, he would have looked a lot stronger if he sat there and stood strong in front of that and said, hey, listen, man, this is the situation. They're saying that I did this and X, Y, and Z. I don't necessarily agree, but this is, just be honest about what went on. He can't do that. So, he really just, the guy's coming across, man, as a huckster, man, as a shuckster. This is not good. I didn't like that. Biden's energy is a little bit low. People could say, oh, he sounds a little older than this guy, but Biden basically right now is just running on his record, and that's what he basically just needs to run on currently. This guy here is up in here talking all loud and lying. Lying, we don't have to, but he's up in here lying.
You do say this thing with a porn star, like the case just got over with. Just got over with.
And
She
he's lying.
described the act on the stand.
Incredible.
He claimed
No,
he didn't do the same thing to Karen McDougal.
no,
He
no.
did the
He's
same
just
thing to E. Jean Carroll. It's like, bro, you can't.
well. The thing is, like every response he made too, he'd always say, "I was the best and Joe was the worst." Like I'm like, dude, at a certain point, you can't just say everything you did was the best. Like the border is the most dangerous place in the world. It's like, dude, what do you like? Like there's this place called
Going
Ukraine.
on, man?
Like there's this place, you know, there's this place like Iraq. Like the border is the most dangerous place in the world. Like it's just like, dude,
Shit, St. Louis is the most dangerous place.
it's just, it's just it's just like, dude, like I don't get it. Like it's it just doesn't make sense. Like, oh, I do get it. I mean, the worst thing too is CNN is not saying, hey, this is a lie. Like CNN is just letting this dude run and say everything. Oh, I had the highest approval from veterans. Veterans love me. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, I did this for the VA. It's at an all-time low under Joe Biden. I'm just like, dude, like you can't just like
What?
continue to just make this stuff up. Like you gotta act, it was the best economy in the world. This is the worst. Like the world's falling. I'm just like, dude, what is going on?
I mean, the only thing Trump had to do was play it straight. Play it straight. Play it straight. Play it safe. He couldn't do it.
You
I
got to
don't know
understand.
why he couldn't do it. Well, let's hear this.
It's his character. You have to understand, people with tremendous character flaws are always going to make character errors because that's just what they are. His character's effed up. So he's going to lie because that's what he does. That's what he is. You know, there's, you know.
Okay. We're back.
You know,
We're back.
Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency. Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes. And Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We're going to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We've got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. it's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every
Bro, it's about climate change.
Every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators.
Hillary Clinton did that.
And he called it to them, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money. But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, where there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Who's doing this again?
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent?
That's the only thing that'll make it solvent.
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing we'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where we talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many
What's
other things,
going on, man?
And
Bro,
we
this dude
mentioned the
trolling
laptop.
like
We
shit,
mentioned
man.
Russia, Ukraine.
He's
And
trolling heavy.
everything he
He's trolling
does
heavy.
is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street,
What
and
the
these
fuck?
people are
They're not
living in
putting
luxury
immigrants in the
hotels.
VA.
He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession. And inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there.
Drain the swamp. He is the swamp.
I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody.
Bro, what about the child care?
He should have fired every military man that was involved with the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now, all of a sudden, he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit. Like
man.
This
they
much.
Just let this dude run.
Insignificant.
Just
he
let
wants
him run.
open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst.
Man, you're doing it again, bro.
And they
what,
rate
why
me,
you doing it again?
And they rate me one of the best,
shit.
okay?
He
And
can't help
if
it.
I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more, because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy.
Oh my God!
Deficit with China.
What is going on here? What the fuck is this?
So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs, because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't, because it's too much money. It's tremendous.
Bro, he yada and everything. Man, I can't be the only person watching this.
Done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border. At numbers that nobody's ever seen under him, because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had.
What you gonna do to fix
President
the
Trump, thank you,
drugs?
President Biden.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies, and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, who he sends love letters to, and Putin, et cetera. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have
Guys
wood,
wearing a diaper and
that I'm in
talking
very
crazy.
good health. I
This
just
is
won
unbelievable.
2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape.
What?
I feel I'm as in good a
What
shape
the
as I
fuck is he
was
talking about?
25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in
Like,
as good a
dude, you're
shape
talking about
as
a
I
golf
was,
game and riding a
years
golf
ago. I
cart.
feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced
This
them.
is still rambling.
Dr.
This is
Ronnie
still
Jackson,
rambling.
who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said
Nobody.
they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President
Yeah,
Biden?
stop,
You
nigga.
can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. That he's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's
let's
not act like
President Trump, we're going to
21
Let's
rounds.
not act like children.
a specific concern that
My
voters have about
man.
you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one
It's
of
a
my
simple
many
yes or no
places
question,
enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might.
Nigga, yes
Russia,
or no?
They took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing
He's
from
trying to
this
avoid
man
that
right here.
whole question.
That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position.
Just
right
say there's
now
going to be violence.
with Ukraine and Russia.
Shit going to burn to the ground, bro.
Because Ukraine's not winning that war.
Got it.
He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people.
If you lose the election, would you concede? Yes or no?
With the golden domes that are 1,000 years
I
old.
will concede.
All because
That's
of
the end
him
of it.
and stupid decisions.
Oh, wow.
Russia
Oh, wow. So we can ask a straight question.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location.
Are you listening to this?
And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
Live from Georgia, where they gave no media credentials to no black news organization.
Not one.
600 in the area.
Held them out, froze them out, and the black media complained they got frozen out. Right.
They brought people in from overseas, and they didn't bring not a single black news organization in one of the blackest fucking cities in America.
One of the blackest towns, black mayor of the town and all that, and they sat down and told them, you got no seat at the table. This is
CNN is based in Atlanta too. That's the wild thing.
Yes.
That's
like they don't know.
It's craziness. As far as this debate right here, this is almost a comedy show. I mean, I hate to say it. I'm just looking at what's going on. This is literally almost like a comedy.
This is total Art New style territory. This total AB Media versus like fucking Mike V. Totally, this is where this fucking shit's at. This is
a Manosphere panel, man. This is a Manosphere panel,
bro.
Stuff.
Look. BGS, look. You wanted the Manosphere to go mainstream? Here you go. Manosphere having all this fucking impact? You goddamn right. What did we just watch? What did we just watch, dumb nigga? What the fuck is what? Dude, the dude asked a simple fucking question. Would you accept the results of the election? Let me get back to that. Let me brag some more about my cognitive ability.
The other thing is too, like, CNN has just been worthless. Like, they have not fact checked this dude once
at all.
Like, I hope
not once.
I hope they're not doing the second debate, like the one in a couple weeks or 3 weeks. Like, I hope CNN is not doing the other one because like they've been horrible in this one.
You got 2 third base coaches waving motherfuckers in from first base, just waving niggas the fuck in. Like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like, bro, listen, man. You gotta say, sir, the question is, He had to ask him 3 times when you accept the results of the election.
And then
he says he would rather be somewhere else. I'm like,
he said that. And then they just let him ramble on and let him literally say bold-faced lies, sitting right up here. And I know Biden was just sitting there saying, all right, just let this guy talk for a while, man. Just let this guy talk. I mean, you know, he can't run on his record. He's lied consistently.
He can't, man.
I you know, like I said, this is a bit of a joke of a debate. You know,
the dude hasn't even talked about one. Has he talked about any legislation that he's going to pass or pass?
Not
any.
Never.
Oh, I had the best. This
Hasn't
is
done
the
it.
worst.
Not any. And that's not his purpose here, as you can obviously see. His purpose here is to try to throw as much chaff up in the air as you can. But these people are not going to fact check, and let's see if they're going to fact check this at some point. I don't know if they're going to do that.
I cannot. I mean, bro, you know, like normally after every debate, you know, they crash the boards with all these conservative commentators coming on TV, lying and shit like they usually do every other debate. I don't see nobody really jumping out the window for this dude after this debate. It makes sense that the top 100 CEOs in the country.
They're going to closing statements.
Oh, closing statements. Let's hear this, MOT.
Sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. all of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that shit.
So we've been watching the wrap-up there of the debate. Former President Trump making his closing statement, wrapping up the first presidential debate.
Yeah, I don't want to listen to that shit. All right, man. It was a shit show. It was real. It was fun. But it was not real fun, as Mike B would say.
Like, what, like I don't see how you.
What did we just watch?
Like Biden,
dude.
Like
the manosphere has poisoned the entire earth. We literally just saw a Prophet of Thought series style presidential debate. Hey man, we're going high places, man. BGS, you're fucking right. The manosphere does have fucking impact. This shit that we just watched, this policy-less politician. What just happened? The dude was asked a simple question. What about child care? This dude started talking shit about how good his cognitive test was, bro. Bro, that's some straight up conservative shit, man.
No, then start talking about his golf swing.
Yeah.
And that's why he's in shape. Oh, I won a tournament. So I'm in shape. I'm like, dude, like, you could drive a golf cart in golf. Like, you're not playing on the PGA Tour. Like, what you that shows you're in shape.
I mean, it's first of all, it's crazy. He's just throwing stuff out there. The key thing
and
that
they're gonna read the stream, man. I think I seen all I needed to see. I think I heard all I needed to hear. You guys have a really nice time.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I think that's about right. Look, man, this is some of the craziest stuff I've seen.
What did we just watch? What did we just watch?
This guy just sat around and he just sat back and lied. He sat there and just told bold-faced lies, didn't answer questions. I mean, he just sat down and just ran around and said whatever he wanted.
That dude just said, nigga, what children? What about my golf swing, nigga?
No fact checking. Talking about golf swing. This shit was incredible. I mean, I'm going to listen to this again. I'm going to laugh my ass off. This shit was crazy. I mean,
man.
this is what we call the debate tonight. Boy, this was I thought, Trump, I know he tried to come out sounding, looking younger, sounding all this, sounding all that. But when I listened to the content of what he was saying, this guy's crazy. But I understand what he's trying to do. But man, it was a bad look on this one, man. It was a bad look. It was a bad look.
But one of these dudes is about to be sentenced.
Man, just get this guy out of here, man. This guy's got to get off the political. He's got to get off the political scene, man. This guy is just. I mean, did not want to say any truth about.
Listen, man.
Didn't want to talk about January 6th.
Put Biden back on the shit he was on for the State of the Union. President Biden, don't fall for these people telling you not to take whatever the fuck you took to make you look like how you was looking during the State of the Union, man. Go back to that shit because Biden got off of that shit, and then Trump hopped up on that fucking Trumpian, man. That dude was full Trumpian. That dude Sarah Palin his way through the entire fucking debate. They asked the question, he answered what the fuck he wanted to answer. Man, I cannot wait to hear AM Talk Radio tomorrow. I can't wait.
No, I'm waiting for someone who's gonna go and just line by line be like, "Yep, he lied here, he lied here." Like these are just make a big list. These are all the lies that Trump told in the debate.
This dude said
And
he brought in more revenue with less taxes. What? What? No.
here
No.
are all the lies he told in this hour and a half debate, and here's the actual data. And if you do that, it's just like, okay, so even his closing statement, the dude just like, oh, we got the biggest tax cut in history. The country was strong and safe. It's a disaster now. The military loves me, like vote for me. I'm like, dude, you're the same one who's literally been on record, like calling people suckers in the military and like literally like literally disrespecting like people who are POWs. I'm just like, dude, like you're not running on anything. And then they ask you, are you going to accept the election? That depends. Like
That
if
depends.
it's free and fair, like
that depends. If it's free and fair to me, maybe.
Like was the last election free and fair? Like because you didn't accept that one.
The dude yada yada the January 6th shit. And they just let him go. They asked him again and they just let him go.
Yeah.
They asked him again and they just let him go.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, like I said, CNN doing this debate, like, I don't know what has happened to CNN, but I'm just like, dude, like, all you all did is literally ask questions. You didn't have to even do anything to step in because it was like, okay, their microphones are cut off, so it's not like they can talk over each other. So it's like you just pick two random people and ask like 15, 20 questions.
Yes.
And like, oh, can we follow up on that? Like, yeah.
Well, the follow-up would actually mean that they were listening to the answers to the and that they actually gave answers to the questions. That's how come there was no follow-up, because nobody really followed the script. I mean, Biden probably followed the script. I'm gonna go with 60% of the time. Trump was like, man, I'm gonna talk about what I want to talk about. Now you see what they were saying is Trump is doing his style of preparation for the debate. Now we know what they're talking about. That dude wasn't trying to pay attention to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the abortion issue, I'm like, dude, like you're saying, oh, it's with the states. I'm like, you know full well, like people don't run an abortion saying, oh, it should be a states' rights issue. Like nobody said that. Everyone always who was against abortion always said it was murdering children and they were against it. Now all of a sudden, oh, it's with the states and that's perfect. Like that's what we wanted. I'm like, all right, man.
But Trump said a couple times, man, that you're gonna have the kid, then you're gonna kill it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this dude talking about?
Yeah, that's why I'm like
he made it look like they're gonna have the kid, then they're gonna kill the kid. Why'd you have the kid? Like I never understood that.
Like that's why I'm just like, dude, when you start talking to these people who are like doing March for Life and like all these evangelicals, like they are not protesting abortion because they believe it's a states' rights issue.
Oh,
like,
no, of course not.
Like so I don't know. Like the fact they let him get away with that, the fact they didn't bring up things Trump being like, oh, I want to be a dictator for a day, I want to tear up the Constitution. Like, oh, y'all didn't bring up Project 2025 at all. Like, hey, Mr. President, can you please explain this Project 2025? Like, I just don't get it. Like, they did not ask to do any questions.
Biden, get back on them Biden drugs, man. Don't let that dude juice you up like that again, man. You need to look like how you look on the State of the Union. I don't give a fuck what they got to put in. But Trump came in there, and I bet you he think he killed it. I bet you he think he walked out of that room thinking that he fucking killed it. Like he was doing like the Joker dance from like the Joker movie and shit all over the CNN studios. Like, what is wrong with this dude? My god!
Like I said, you got what you expected from Trump. Like a whole bunch of nothing, a whole bunch of things that like didn't make any kind of sense, And like Biden did come with substance. It was just his voice. Like he's clearly like got a cold or something, which I'm just like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Because he
y'all
was
should have
losing
put.
his voice. Yeah,
I was
he
like,
was
y'all
losing his
should have
voice.
put this dude in quarantine for like pretty much since last week. Like, hey, nobody needs to be coming around this dude. Like, nobody needs to do anything that's gonna jeopardize this good dude getting hurt, because this should have been a slam dunk for Biden. Like, Trump came out and did exactly what I expected him to do, which was like just like say a bunch of nothing. Like, oh, the border, like it's the most dangerous place in the world, and like all these people are coming in, and it's so dangerous, and people are getting killed every day, and it's miserable. I'm like, dude, like what is going on? Like, what planet are you living on?
Man, like, all right, let's go over this bullshit right here. Hold on. Byron. Did you see that clip that Mike sent in the group chat about the
Which one?
about the barbers? Like Byron Donalds was talking to these stupid ass fucking dudes.
Oh, wait, was this the one about reparations?
Yeah, no. This okay. So, all right. So, black men, you want to be pandered to? Yes, Lawrence. Yes, I'm about to fucking show you. I'm about to show you this bullshit right here. Okay. See, you want to be pandered to. Now, when you want to be pandered to, that means that you don't believe in substance, that you want to be lied to. So, got a bunch of people in the barbershop. So now we're about to look at this crazy stuff. Now, all these
Wait,
people who say that they're Trumpers,
what's this dude in the yellow wearing? Like, what? Like,
overalls and the shirt, man, totally up to date. Totally up to date.
it's just like,
Totally up to date.
like it
This
just looks like
dude look like he's about to go out and pick some serious fucking cotton, man. Serious cotton is about to be picked.
Yeah, what city is this in? It's like you got
Atlanta.
three dudes in
Atlanta.
suits, like a guy who's like business casual, and a dude in some overalls, and like a dude in a white tee. It's like,
Now this is a barbershop. Oh yeah, this is a barbershop where yeah. But let's just hear this shit. Yeah, let's just hear Byron Donalds lie about a whole bunch of shit. Like, listen, it's easy to keep up with this stuff. It's very easy, but when you don't know anything.
Hello. Oh, hey, Mr. President, how you doing? Well, I'm going to put you on speaker, but actually a great question just came up. We're talking about regulations and some of the things that can be done to alleviate the regulation burdens on a lot of businesses. But I'm going to put you on speakerphone for everybody to hear. Hold on a second. All right, everybody, you're on with the president.
Hello, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with you. I hope I'm being well represented. I have a feeling I am. I know them very well. So I hope so.
No, you are, sir. But a question came up about regulations. And so what's your view of what we need to do with regulations when you come back into office?
Well, as you know, I cut taxes and regulations more than any other president. We had the biggest tax cut, and bigger even than the Reagan tax cuts. And I also cut regulations far more than any other president. And they have put a lot of them back already. We will get them cut so fast. And, it's very interesting when I went to business leaders and said, which was more important, these big tax cuts or these big regulation cuts? Almost every one of them said regulation cuts. And it made a big difference to their businesses, small businesses and big businesses. Great question.
Awesome. Anybody else got a question for the president?
I want to tell them that black folks will vote for him to get gas under $1.
All right, so Mr. President, the statement, I'm not going to call it a question, the statement.
Some totally Art Newstall shit was just said. Like, this is why they don't want to meet with you, man. You say this dumbass shit.
Gas under, dude.
$1. $1.
No, that was a managed panel.
Oh,
That was the
God.
manosphere panel right there, man.
Do you know the last time gas was under $1? Like,
It
dude,
hadn't
like,
been the late 90s. It hadn't been the late 90s.
you have been longer than that. Like, dude, like, what?
Nah,
Well, can,
it,
can you
nah,
make
it was the
gas?
late 90s, man. It was the late 90s because I remember when I was in basic training, gasoline, I think was like 97 cents a gallon. I'm pretty sure.
I haven't seen gas 97 cents since when I started driving back and forth to school in high school. That was high school. That was in the 70s.
That's good.
So
I was gonna
I haven't seen that 97 cents under $1. I haven't seen that literally since the late 70s, early 80s. In the 90s, we were at like $1.90, $2, and so forth. You know, $2 mid, $2. That's where we've been in the 90s. At around that time. And how do I know that? Because I remember I was watching I got The Sopranos as a series, so I was watching those guys maybe a few weeks back, and I remember looking at this was because The Sopranos came out in '90. Sopranos was out in '98, just before '99, and I remember you saw Tony Soprano standing by a gas station in New Jersey, and the price of gas was like $2.60. And I remember looking at that saying, wow, that was a long time ago. So that was a while ago. So I do remember that. So I remember gas prices very well, what the prices were, and we haven't seen those low prices in and I would have to say in a generation, damn near.
Yeah, it's like, dude, okay, can you go back to gas being 50 cents a gallon and like Coca-Cola costing 25 cents? It's like, dude, like what? Like,
That's a pure A.L. Evans type shit, man, that we just heard, man. But let's keep this shit going, man. Let's see what other dumbass question these motherfuckers gonna ask.
Statement is, black folks are voting for you if you get gas under $1.
Oh, well, I tell you, I got it pretty close. We had it for a little while. You know, we talk about $1.87, and now it's on its way up. As you see what's going on.
Gasoline was not $1.87 nowhere in the country in the Trump, man. Come on, bro.
$1.87.
$1.87?
He's like, well, I was close, dude. Like, what do you know? It's almost.
I think the lowest I seen gas, I think it was 220 in Ohio, and I think it was just 201, 20 something in like Texas. That's the lowest it's gone.
Dude,
I
I
don't
feel
think
like
it's
I've
really
never
lower
seen
than
gas
that.
below like. I feel like I've never seen gas below like $1.99 since I've been driving, like ever. It's always been like $2. Like, I remember when it got up to like $4, and people were like, "Oh, like they thought it was crazy."
Wow. All right, man. Let's see what else these stellar individuals got to say.
I'm seeing $4. I'm seeing $4.50, depending on where you buy it. But we actually had it to $1.87, and we had it to $1.52 at one point. You know, different points. But we had the gasoline as low as it's been in a long time. So I don't know if I can guarantee $1, but we're going to get it as low as we can. And that's a big spur for the economy. The lower you get it, that's a big, big spur for the economy.
Hey, Mr. President, it's Wesley Hunt here. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Wesley.
I got a question for you. You've been talking a lot about no tax on tips. If you could kind of talk about that and what impact that would have, not just on the Black community, but on everyone. I think it's a winner for all of us, and it's your idea. So if you kind of talk about that, that'd be great, sir.
So about a month ago, I was at my building in Las Vegas having dinner with some.
Who the fuck?
Wait,
no taxes on tips?
Like, is that even? Wait, do you even do that? Like,
I mean, does this nigga own a strip club? What the fuck? What is he talking? Come on, man. Yo, you in a whole suit.
Like, bro, the only time there's a tax on tips is like if there's like no, like, wait a minute now, like,
tips are taxed. They are taxed.
No, if you do the tip, like, you basically do the taxes and then you do the tip on top of the total bill, right? Unless you're doing like gratuity and it's already calculated. I feel like if you go out to
Okay. What's the percentage of people in the country who's affected by this tip shit? It ain't that fucking many.
Well, it should. Well, truth be told, it should not be a black man in this age demographic. Like, why are you getting tips? Unless you're a restaurant owner, but your tips are going to your employees, they're not going to you.
Yeah. All right. It's a stupid question, but okay. I can buy that, Lawrence. He's probably a restaurant owner, but what does it have to do? Wait a minute. If you don't have that much income, you're not paying that much tax. I mean, shut up. Come on, man. Like, come on, bro. You wear a suit. You get to talk to the president. This question you asked.
Big people, business people that were, planning some big developments and things. And the waitress came over and said, how you doing? She said, oh, the government is after me all the time for my tax on tips. I said, really? They do that? He said, yeah, Biden just made the regulations much tougher. And it's very tough nowadays, tax on tips. And I said, how would you like to be no tax on tips? Because first of all, it's very hard. It's a very hard thing to control from the government standpoint. But the people are very unhappy about what's happening, especially the new regulations. And anyway, I just came up with the concept of no tax on tips. Let the people earn what they earn. And I'll tell you, it has been so popular beyond anything. I've never seen anything like it. So we have no tax on tips. Vote for Trump, no tax on tips.
Hey, Mr. President, we have Ben Carson.
Wait, MOT, pause for a second.
Hey, Mr. President, how you doing?
Hi, Ben. I'm good.
Wait, okay, I see what you're saying. No, I got it mixed up. Like, he's talking about income tax, but like, dude, if you leave a tip in cash, like, how are people taxing that?
It goes straight to the waitress. That's why they want you to pay in cash, because they get the fucking cash right away. Now I understand, like, you write the shit in, and it could take them a while to get that. But no, man, the cash they get right away.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't know, man. I don't know. Grown ass adult human being. This is what he asked. All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
Let's keep going. Again, you want people in your face, and this is the kind of question you ask.
Good, Ben.
What you said about the regulations is so important. At HUD, we were able to get rid of over 2,000 regulations.
Right.
It made it so much easier to get things done in general. But I just want to encourage you to continue to speak out, because the attacks on you have been absolutely ridiculous. We're praying that God will give you the strength to bear it, because you're standing in there for all of us.
Well, the attacks have been unbelievable, what they say. And, they'll take a speech where I'll be out rallying, a perfect speech for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We have big crowds. We had over 100,000 people, 107 to be exact, in Wildwood, New Jersey. We had 25,000 in the South Bronx. We have 88,000 in South Carolina. We have tremendous crowds. And you'll make a perfect speech. And this lowlife Biden will take the speech, him and his people, and they'll cut sentences out, cut words out, cut sentences out. Oh, Trump, look, you didn't make a good speech. And I do them largely without teleprompter. I don't need a teleprompter. He can't read a teleprompter. But these people are nasty. They're really horrible people. They really are. It's a shame. I've campaigned a lot over years, not even, for myself, but in particular, I've campaigned against some pretty bad people for others. But there's never been anything like this. They make up things. Suckers and losers, which was never said. They know it. They make it up. They literally make it up. You saw it with the 51 intelligence agents, where they said that they got this done, where they said that the Hunter laptop from hell was all Russian disinformation. And, it's just a total made-up thing. These people, so you're right about that, Ben, when you say it. It really is a shame. But the people understand it. We're leading in every poll, and we're leading every swing state. And one just came out, I guess, Nate Silver, the New York Times, that we have close to a 66% chance of winning, which is a pretty good chance, I guess, when you think about it, right?
Hey, Mr. President, you got time for 2 more questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, Shelley Winter, how are you, sir?
How are you? Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you, the debate is tomorrow. Do you think that you will get what many of my listeners are asking me? Do you think that you will get a fair shot from Jake Tapper and Dana Bash? Do you think you'll get fake Tapper? Right? Do you think you,
It was cutting
and
out.
Don
Can you
Bash?
just repeat that question, please?
What do you
Do
think
you think
you'll
you're
get?
going to get a fair shot from Jake Tapper and Dana Bash tomorrow night?
Well, I think it would be good for them if they did it. I think probably not. You know, it's very interesting. During the primary, CNN covered me, very, very tough, but they covered me all the time. And I won it very quickly. I won it in record time. And Byron knows that, and Ben knows that. They were all there, and Wesley was there. Wesley, good job on television this morning, by the way.
Oh, thank you, sir.
But they were all there. We won it in record. So now I'm making my speech to, accept everything and to acknowledge the victories and all. And CNN started off, and then they ended. Jay Tapper said, "All right, that's enough. We're not going to listen to him." So they cover the whole primary, but they don't cover my victory speech. So am I going to get a fair? Probably not. But it would be very good for CNN. They're having a lot of ratings problems. I think it would be very good for CNN actually, in terms of its credibility. It'll be interesting to see.
All right, last question, Mr. President. Coach?
Yes, Mr. President, how are we doing today, sir?
Hi, Coach.
All right. My question is, in the Black community, it's been made a big deal about how you have been kind of railroaded here as far as your court cases go and everything.
Yeah.
And the support that you'll receive from the Black community is kind of like a sympathetic kind of support, because it's understood that we've received similar, not even similar, but basically we've been railroaded since the day we came here. We felt that way, right? So if you can acknowledge that you're getting support from Black people because of this, then we can kind of acknowledge that we have been getting railroaded. So my question is, what can you do about those Alvin Braggs on your side that have been doing such railroading from the time? What can we do about those Fonnie Willises and Alvin Braggs that are, right now sending some poor Black person to jail for some crime that they're doing?
Well, it's an amazing thing when this happened. Wow. And as you saw, all the legal scholars say these are not cases. These are not cases that should be brought. It's just a terrible thing. It's weaponization. And it comes out of the White House, even when it's city and state, comes out of the White House in order to attack a political opponent. But since that happened, the Black support, I think my representatives will tell you this, the Black support has gone through the roof.
Yes, sir.
And I guess they equate it to problems that they've had. But since this has happened, like the mugshot is the best. It just beat Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra by a lot, by the way. Beat it by a lot. But that's the number one mugshot of all time. It's really an amazing thing. Since it happened, the support among the Black community and the Hispanic community has skyrocketed. It's been amazing. Really been amazing. It's been actually very nice to see.
Mr. President,
it's in one way you say, gee, isn't that too bad? But the truth is, it's really a lovely thing when I see that. We have great support now in the Black community and in the Hispanic community. That's true. Great support.
I'll say before you leave, Mr. President, I'm a veteran, and we have several veterans here on the panel today. And of the group of people that I say support you the most, the Black veterans tend to be with you. So we're with you, sir. If you want to talk a little bit about what you've done with the veterans.
Well, I just want to thank everybody. It was, in fact, if we did it tomorrow, I'd be there. I'd be there despite tomorrow evening. It's going to be big, and they say maybe the biggest. Somebody said this will be the highest rated show of all time. I said, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. Hey, I'm not interested in listening to that. I actually said that to Byron. I'm not interested in hearing it. But I just want to thank everybody for being there. You have my support. We did a tremendous amount. I wrote it down just a little while ago, knowing I was going to make this call. Achieved the lowest African-American unemployment rate, the lowest ever. We delivered the largest small business tax cuts ever. We lifted 6.6 million people out of the poverty, which is a record. Black Americans saw their largest increase in home ownership ever. We gave record funding for historically black colleges and universities. I actually got them taken care of. They were really in bad shape. And we passed it, and we did that. We passed historic criminal justice reform, which nobody else could get. And when I left office, we had almost no inflation, virtually no inflation, which is a killer in the black community and every other community, frankly. And it's just a killer. We had absolutely the best, most beautiful. We had very little inflation, and now the inflation is a disaster. It's killing the black community, and it's killing the country. Inflation. It's known as a country buster. So we did all those things, and nobody else came close. And we'll do them again, and we'll do them even better.
All right, Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you all. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Hope I see you all tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
Bye, everybody.
Man, this is nuts. This is nuts.
An unpopular incumbent.
I'm listening to the pundits on CNN and MSNBC, and everyone's breaking this thing down in a few different ways. This is kind of wild. But people are saying that your man's Trump was just lying all over the place.
Oh my God, dude! They're gonna split that dude apart, and I see why those CEOs walked out on him. You think them CEOs probably asked him the same thing about January 6th? You probably think they asked him the same thing about, okay, would you accept the actual election? Like the results of it. And he has to go out and still do rallies after this.
Were completely unaffected by this because their minds are made unchangeable by this debate.
I don't know how much this debate's going to sway a lot of people.
It's not supposed to sway anyone.
Yeah.
The problem is the only people that matter are the undecideds and the people in the middle. Whatever they're in the middle of at this point, which I don't understand. But at this point, this doesn't make any sense, man.
Well, like I said, I'm just listening to these. I just see that this is going to be they're going to be hashing this over big time, man. But my God, Biden's energy levels seemed like it was low.
Very much.
But yet
he seemed overprepared.
Maybe he was, but he didn't lie about anything. He talked, pretty straight on his policies. Trump seemed, popping. He was up and popping and all that, but he sat back and just said some of the most bizarre stuff I've ever heard. And as a president, you just can't really lie. I don't know, man. It's just I saw a lot of this tonight. I've seen a lot.
Trump had no substance.
I've seen a lot of debates from Nixon back in 1968 when I was a kid, straight up to this very day. So over 50, over 50 years of looking at this stuff from a kid till now, and I just I've never seen anything as bizarre. I know, I did see the Reagan the Reagan debate with Fritz Mondale, and when Reagan was up in there, kind of didn't know where he was. That was a little bit embarrassing and couldn't really speak on it. That was kind of bad. But this right here with the bizarre lying and just the bizarre twist and turn, it's just I've never seen anything like this before. I haven't, and it's this Trump guy, before 4 years ago, Proud Boys, stand back, stand by, and all that kind of stuff. I've just never seen this kind of stuff. I've never seen this. In all the years that I have watched this, this has been, I hate to date myself, but a half a century of looking at this stuff from a kid to a grown ass man, half a century of looking at this, I've never seen anything. I've never seen anything like this, man. I really don't know what else to say. I really don't.
He has to go on the campaign trail and claim victim after not answering basic questions about childcare, about saying it's a good thing for him to take things to the states. It's like you don't understand the conservative position on abortion. Their position is have the child. That's their position. There's no turning things back over to the states. And even if
Yep.
you do,
Yep.
in Texas's situation, your life can still be in danger. They'll be like, we're gonna vote against you anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
No, Trump.
no, I was gonna say,
Trump
Lawrence,
just didn't have any substance at all. Like he did
Nah.
not say. He just didn't say anything. He just basically ranted about how he basically tried to play into the scare tactics. You saw them try to do it last time around, like in some of these suburban places like Arizona, of like, oh, you know, the crime is just out of control and the border is just out of control. And it's like, dude, like you shut down a border deal. Like it's typical just Republican tactics of like try to scare people and talk about how bad the world is with no evidence whatsoever.
you know, he can't really run on his policies and he can't run on his presidency because he lost and he looked bad. He looked bad. I mean, COVID wiped everything out. This was a major issue that
This
you
dude
had to
claiming that
handle.
there was no inflation under
Well,
him.
but just let
What
me say,
the fuck?
this was a major issue you had to handle as a president. As president, you have to deal with crises. I mean, you have to deal with crises from the Second World War that literally Roosevelt had to deal with. Lincoln had to deal with the Civil War. You know, you had to deal. Johnson and them had to deal with the Vietnam War and so forth. I mean, you have to deal with crises that can come up at any point in time. You have to be able to deal with a crisis, and you don't know what that crisis can be. You know, and when that crisis came up on Trump's watch, he couldn't handle it, and things just went right out the window. So you know, he's got to try to hide and run around and make other things the factor, because he can't really run on his record the way, you know, a good
No.
president could. He can't do that. So that's what you're dealing with here. And as far as Lawrence guy, you said you saw it with Nixon. I remember the Nixon presidency very well. I don't really remember. Of course, I was too young. The Kennedy and the Kennedy Nixon debates. You know, I was just getting born around that time, but certainly as we saw Nixon come up through his presidency when he was dealing with when he came up and he was coming in after Johnson and them coming through, he seemed like he was handling things halfway decently. I myself have not seen guys get up here and just lie like this man, and it's just we're
He
just
answered no questions.
this is a bizarre time. I mean, in our history, this is a bizarre time, man. This is a bizarre time. I guess our nation was destined to experience something like this at some point in time in its history.
Well, we didn't
But
uptrack anybody,
here we
so
are.
that's what you
Here
gonna
we
get.
are.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are. Here we are. This is bizarre. This is a bizarre
You had
time.
one guy who was extremely low in energy, and then you got a guy who was high energy, but he couldn't answer any questions.
You know,
What the fuck? It's like I don't think he prepared at all. I think he had his statements, and he just recited his statements. And if Trump just could have stayed composed, like okay, I don't want to give Trump advice, but I think Trump would have totally blown this thing out of the water if he just would have admitted and not went back into the past and talk about poll numbers and all that kind of other stuff. I think if he just would have just said, as soon as Biden started, rambling and shit at the end, he was like, here he goes again. And if he kept with him making that a theme of the actual debate, but he took the bait of talking about oh shit. He took the bait of lying about his rape cases. He took the bait of just lying about shit that we already know the fucking answer to.
he said he didn't do anything. He said he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything wrong. He said he didn't do anything wrong. He lied about January 6th. Straight up just lied about that.
He yada that question
And
2 times.
and said he didn't do anything. Oh, I tried to call these people back. What? So I mean, just really bizarre stuff that you have to look at very serious character flaws here. These are character flaws. The problem I see with Biden, and I've seen it I remember the first debate that Obama had with
Romney.
With Romney. He did not come across very sharp. I was throwing furniture against the wall after that debate because I thought he let Romney really off the hook, and let Romney get his ish off.
Romney ran over him. Romney ran over him.
So he did not sound, Obama wasn't sharp on that one. So that's just kind of where we are. Biden is an older guy. That's for sure. Are people going to say, is he up to this next task? We got some time for him to really show that. So was it a great start? I don't think it was a great start for either one of them here tonight. But if you're running on the record, the records are the records. And I have to say, as far as we're going to run on record right now, we have to look at Biden having the advantage from the record perspective, as president. So he's got advantage there. He didn't sit there and lie, but his energy, people can argue was low. So you got to look at it from that perspective as well.
Now he came in there without whatever he took for the State of the Union. Yeah, man. Get back on that State of the Union shit, man. Get back on it. Because Trump came in, made it up. He was ready to go. But he wasn't ready to go with answers to anything. He just dodged all the questions. Bro, you can't dodge the question about child care. You can't yada and dodge the question about January 6th. You can't dodge the question about will you accept that you lost the election. If you lose, would you accept the results? He had to get him 3 times to say that he would, if it was free and fair, which is like people don't understand this, but Trump actually messed it up for the conservative movement in the South because they just closed the polls and whatever the count was. Now they actually have to go and count every vote. They never did that shit before. People assumed that they had to do that. No, they never did that shit before. Trust me, I used to be a poll worker. I know. They just cut the shit off. The numbers are the numbers, and that's it. Nobody else in line. Not accepting any more mail-in ballots. None of that shit. Now Trump made sure that they have to count everything now. That's how come the red wave isn't the red wave anymore and everything else. Because of him. Because of him. Oh my God. Y'all got anything else to get up out of here?
No. I think that's pretty much it. Definitely good to be with you tonight. This was I'm looking at this. I expected this to be a bit of a bit of a wild night, and it did not disappoint.
Same here. Same here. Like Trump gave me what I thought. I was surprised at Biden's performance just because mainly just his voice, but I think he came out a little bit over prepared. I think they need to let him loosen up, but he was throwing facts and data at him, so you can't be too mad at that. So obviously his voice sounded like he's gotten a little bit of a cold, but it's June. We'll see what happens next. But like I said, I just want to see the line of fact checks for Trump and all the lies he told tonight.
Oh my God.
Oh, when they come up with that.
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
And the actual correction. Like, this is the lie was told, and here's what the data actually is. I already saw one, like the Paris Climate Accord. Oh, it would have cost us trillions of dollars. Like, no, that was like way overinflated. So yeah. Well, that's all I got. So thanks for hosting MOT.
All right, cool, man. If there's another debate, I don't think there should be. I think this debate shouldn't have happened at all. I think this debate was designed to draw all the heat off of his conviction, but he just made things a lot worse. He glossed over stuff he didn't need to gloss over. These questions were not hard. They're pretty much easy. He was on easy street. He had way more energy than actual Biden. The only thing he had to do was just keep making fun of the fact that the dude can't talk and answer questions. Just say yes or no. Don't brag on the past. Don't bring up stuff from the past. Don't lie about the past. Real easy, real simple. And by the love of God, answer simple questions. Yes or no. Couldn't do it. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure you are signed up to vote. I am not telling you who to vote for within your actual domicile. That is a local matter. Colorado works fine. So, with that said, you guys have a really nice rest of y'all night. And as you can see, nobody else covers the actual debates within the space because it actually requires you to take a side and to have a level of competency while actually discussing these issues. So, I want to thank you guys for coming through. Tomorrow, you guys have a really nice rest of your night. Make sure you like the stream on the way out.